Hi everyone, my name is Zeinab Alameddine. I'm working at Porsche Holding and I'm responsible for the green building certification and many theme in the green building. So my presentation will be condensed. That's why I'm happy that Nora finished 5 minutes before the time, so I will use it to the end. The agenda for today, I will go first in the introduction as an icebreaker. Then I will go through the Paris Agreement, the action plan on finance sustainable growth, the Green Deal, because they laid the groundwork for many other regulation and policies regarding real estate and building. Then I will dig into the taxonomy in details, especially to the construction of real estate. I will continue with the Sustainable Finance Directive disclosure, so to say, and I will talk about the criteria that affects real estate. Then I will end with the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and if we still have time, I would love to go to the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, the EPBD, the other benchmarks, green bond, and in the end, I will make an example about the decarbonization pathway. But in the end, I will also take 1 minute to talk about the EPBD, because due to it, in 2030, all new buildings will have to be designed to be zero emission building, and the worst 15%. The worst building that are 15% in the countries will have to be renovated. So let's begin. I will begin my presentation with the global risk landscape. It was published in the Global Risk Report in 2021 by the World Economic Forum, and it presents the result of the Global Risk Perception Survey, where the survey respondent, they had to assess, or they asked them to assess, first of all, okay, that's not good. Okay, so I will skip it. So they asked me to assess the likelihood of the individual global risk from a scale to 1 to 5. 1 is a risk that is very unlikely, and 5 risk that's very likely to occur over the course of the next 10 years. And they assess as well the impact of each of these global risks, where 1 it has a minimal impact and 5 catastrophic impact. And as we see, the report shows that climate-related risk, including extreme weather and the climate change, climate action failure that we see above, are the dominant feature of the risk landscape. In 2022, so the global report again shows that climate change continue to be perceived as the most threat to humanity. The respondents rate the climate change failure as the risk that has the most potential to have the damage at global scale over the next detail. And what does it mean, climate action failure? This is the failure of government and business to enforce or invest in effective measures for climate change adaptation or mitigation and the transition to a carbon neutral economy. The dominant driver for anthropogenic warming is the CO2. Methane and nitrous oxide are contributing substantially. However, the methane molecule persists in the atmosphere for around 10 years, which is much lower than the lifetime of the CO2. And we can see as well the CO2 is decreasing. The CO2 level is decreasing in a dramatic way, and it crossed 400 ppm in 2013. So Yearly, we emit 50 billion a ton of greenhouse gas emission. So 2/3 of these emissions come from the energy use. And we can see that it is complicated. There's no universal solution for everything. This greenhouse gases is causing the planet to warm. The direct measurements from the surface Earth, the direct measurement from the Earth's surface temperature shows that the global warming, that globally the average temperature reached 1.1 and is continuing. In 2020, the annual mean temperature was 1.2 degree above the normal, which is really catastrophic. All these global warming and temperature increase, so the climate change is already having a measurable socio-economic impact. So the physical climate risk is materialized through damage to physical asset. Okay, I'll skip it. To infrastructure, disruption of the supply chain, harm to individual and to life. So for example, here the Munich reinsurance said or calculated the natural catastrophe in 2020 were $210 billion and only 82 were insured. But that means that there's a more higher claim now for the insurance companies. So climate change is getting harder to ignore, and the government around the world have agreed finally to take action. It happened with the UN SDG, then the Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Finance Action Plan, which is the DNA of many regulation, and the European Green Deal 2019. So I will begin with the Paris Agreement. So in 2015, the responsibility that is or the responsibility on the finance sector completely changed. So the responsibility to sustainable development changed. In COP 2021, the Paris Agreement was adopted, and there was one important section for the financial sector. And in this section, it was outlined that one of the three main objectives of the Paris Agreement is to strengthen the global response to climate damage by making finance flow consistent with the pathway towards low greenhouse gas emission and climate resilient development. That means that it's shift towards sustainable investment by the financial sector, and it pushed the sustainability finance into the spotlight. And after the Paris Agreement was ratified, many regulation, especially the one related to climate change and sustainability, have been done, and they are now in implementation. One of the main objectives also for a Paris Agreement is to lower the increase of the mean global temperature to well below 2 degrees, and to pursue the effort to limit it to 1.5 degrees. But what doesn't mean half 0.5 degrees? It means like catastrophic situation, from species loss to extreme temperature. So 1.5, it's different than 2 degrees. To achieve, so to say, the Paris Agreement, so to say that it should be a transformation of the financial sector. And the European took the change, and they mandated, or they appointed the high-level expert group to the mandate, so to say, to to make a roadmap and to prepare like comprehensive blueprint for reform across the investment value chain. And upon it, the sustainable finance strategy will be developed. As a priority action, so the expert group recommended, for instance, the taxonomy, the disclosure, and European sustainability standards and green bond. And here put from like screenshot from this one where you can see that one of the priority is the taxonomy. Based on the recommendation of the expert group, the European the action plan on finance sustainable growth was created. It is really one of the most, one of the important plan, because afterwards many regulation came. So this action plan had the 3 objectives, and to reach this objective, there's some action to be done. The 3 objectives, the first objective is to reorient the capital flow towards a more sustainable economy. Objective 2, mainstream sustainability and risk. Objective 3 is fostering transparency. I'll not go into these now. I will only talk about later on about the taxonomy, then the SFDR, the NFDR, or the new CSRDR. Yeah, sorry. So here to say that many regulation many regulation now are being implemented, so to say, and it's due from this action after the action plan. The new Green Deal 2015, I should say the European regulation, the EU want to renew its engagement with the Green Deal to achieve climate neutrality, but also to achieve Paris Agreement and finance the transition to low greenhouse gas emission to climate resilient development. So one of the goal of the European Green Deal is to facilitate the flow of finance towards sustainable economic activities. So now let's begin about the taxonomy, which has a big impact on the real estate investment, etc. So the taxonomy has first, it is the regulation where it's here, and it has some delegated acts. Here I put the Climate Delegated Act, and this one, the Delegated Act comes to explain, but also put like a threshold. For example, here in the Delegated Act, there was a threshold for building. For example, if you buy a building with EPC A, then it is sustainable, etc. There are 4 environmental objectives for the taxonomy. Climate change mitigation and adaptation are already adopted. The 2, they are published but still not adopted. So climate change mitigation and adaptation, I will talk today majorly about the climate change adaptation. And I put so much thing because later when you open it, you can find some information which can be maybe helpful for you. So what is the taxonomy? Taxonomy is a classification system, and it lists what is considered as environmental sustainable. Before, we didn't know what is environmental sustainable, if a building is sustainable or not. So the taxonomy said, okay, for this construction for new building, it is sustainable because it has this and that. Yeah, it is transparency tool. And it will introduce mandatory disclosure where the company, the financial participant have to say what are they have to disclose their taxonomy aligned activities. It is based on latest scientific experience, and it is dynamic. It changes when there's new technology. Yeah, but it's not any obligation. It doesn't imply obligation on investor to invest in some, but they have to disclose. And for sure, if you disclose something that is really bad, it's not good for you. So who are under the taxonomy, who was affected by it? Companies who was affected are the company or the financial and non-financial undertaking. That means company in scope or for an FDR. An FDR will be later amended by another directive, but nevertheless, and the financial participant, they are in scope of SFDR. And who promote, sell and promote environmental product with environmental characteristic. So if your company, or if you are financial market participants and you're under one of these two, then you will have to disclose your taxonomy alignment. I just very fast. What does it mean? Who are the companies that are under the NFDR? So listed and big companies. And as I said, soon there will be, before it was like 12,000 companies. Soon there will be around 50,000 companies that they have to disclose their taxonomy alignment. And regarding the financial participant, asset manager, pension funds, insurance, etc., they have also to disclose their alignment with the taxonomy. So it's very bright. Why all of these company SFDR? First of all, because the companies, they have to disclose their activities that are aligned with the taxonomy. Then this goes to financial market. Sorry, maybe I'll drink because I have a lot to talk. Yeah, sorry. So the companies that are under the CSRD, they have to disclose some ESG issue, and also say what is the capex, opex turnover that's aligned with the taxonomy. This information goes to financial market participant who will use this information to promote investment that have environmental, social objective or sustainable objective or sustainable investment, and then they have to align it as well with the taxonomy. So everything is connected. So why now? Why? What does it have mean to building? Why the building are inside? So regarding the coverage of the taxonomy, we will see that we have sectors, we have economic activities, and all of these I will talk on them into the with time. So first of all, they chose, the taxonomy regulation chose some economic sectors that are contributing, highly contributing to greenhouse gas emission. And as we saw, that buildings is contributing, so it is inside the taxonomy, and other, for example, transport is inside the taxonomy, manufacturing. Yeah. So real estate, that means building. And so they said, okay, regarding to buildings and real estate, we have seven. It's called economic activities. That means construction of real estate is an economic activity. Renovation of existing building is another economic activities. If you buy a building, it is also an economic activity. Yeah. So these activities, they have to be aligned with the taxonomy, so to say. They have criteria. You don't have to be aligned, but nevertheless, they have criteria. And we will come to two important, so to say, definitions: substantial contribution. So the taxonomy say you have to substantially contribute to be sustainable, either to climate change mitigation. What does it mean to substantially contribute to climate change mitigation? That means that you lower your greenhouse gas emission by construction and new building, efficient new buildings, or by renovating building. So this is how you contribute, or you substantially contribute to mitigation, to adaptation. That means that you build resilient building and you take into consideration the extreme weather, etc. So what is, according to the taxonomy, what is an environmental sustainable economic activities? What is an environmental building? What is a construction of what is the so what is considered as sustainable? So the taxonomy said that the building, construction of new buildings or renovation new buildings are sustainable if you contribute to one of the 6 environmental objectives, and now you are only allowed to contribute to one of 2. For example, you contribute to climate change mitigation by building an efficient building, but you should not harm the other 5. For example, you decide to build an energy efficient building, but then said no, but I will put it in a biodiverse area and remove all the biodiversity. No, you cannot do it like this. So you have to lower your greenhouse gases, but you shouldn't do significant harm. For example, another one like using a lot of water, etc. Third one, you have to comply to social minimum standard and to comply with the technical screening criteria. Everything is in the technical screening criteria that say a building is environmental if it has this and that, and I will talk now into the technical screening criteria. But just as a summary, your environmental sustainable activities is green if it contribute to one of these and do not significantly harm the other, and comply with but not all the economic activities, as we mentioned, have the same thing, because if you buy a new building, how can you contribute to diversity? You cannot, because it's already built. So you have to contribute to one and do not significant harm only one, because it's already built and you cannot just remove it and build it somewhere else. So I will talk now fastly. According to the taxonomy, your building is sustainable if it has an energy consumption, primary energy demand, that is less than an NSEP. This is for new buildings. NSEP is a regulation. This is from I think end of 2020 or I think so, or 21. All new buildings in Europe, nevertheless, are near a zero energy building. That means if you build now, your primary energy demand, you can see it in the energy passport, it should be less than what is built. Second, you have to calculate your global warming potential, and you have to do air tightness. Plus, I will come to other things, but related to energy, you have to be aligned with this one. Otherwise, your building, according to the taxonomy, is not green, and you cannot talk to the bank and tell them, oh, okay, I have this and that. They will tell you, okay, do you have 10% less? Did you calculate did you have eco-balance, etc. The same for building. It's here written, nevertheless. So after 2020. End of, as I mentioned, 2020. Nevertheless, so if you want to build, if you want to acquire a new building, so to say, and you want to have a building that's compliant, you have to have a building with the energy class A. This is if the building is built before 2020 and or beginning of 2021, and should be. And if it is built afterwards, it will have to comply with the it have to comply with the new building. So if it is built before 2021, you have to have class A or be top 15% of the whole country. Yeah. So this is for a new building, but why the taxonomy here put the global warming potential? It is something that you will be, if you are building a new building or renovation or whatever, it is thing you cannot now close your eyes. You have to do it because I still remember your presentation. You said 39% of Nora, your CO2 emissions come from building. So 28% come from the operation. That means the heating, cooling, etc. But 11% come from the manufacture and construction. That means that the carbon is come from operational and from embodied from material. And the EU taxonomy is saying you have to calculate it, because later on probably they will put a threshold. Why? Because nowadays everything is done regarding the operational carbon. You have to lower your energy, and afterwards you continue lowering your energy, and in the end you will have only embodied carbon. So let's say if you build a zero energy and you don't use wood, then you will have a loss of embodied carbon, and the regulation is coming so that you decrease both of them. So now you are disclosing for renovation of existing buildings. The taxonomy said two things. First of all, you have to reduce your primary energy demand of 30%, or you do a major renovation and you comply. But before I forgot, if you want to reduce the primary energy demand of 30%, you cannot just use renewable energy. For example, you say, I'm putting a photovoltaic and I'm not doing anything just to lower my energy. No, too late. So these are what is substantially contributing. That means the first criteria of the EU taxonomy to substantially contribute. We saw it. Now, after contributing and having energy efficient, having a building that have APCA, you shouldn't do harm. That means you have to look at the physical climate risk. That means assess, is the building under flooding, is under extreme temperature, is there any physical climate risk that can affect this building, and if yes, you have to make adaptation measures, for example, green roof or something, higher your building, or do something on the how can I say, to lower that the flood come inside the building, etc. So you have to make measurements in order to strengthen the resilience of this building. Concerning water, also here the taxonomy said, okay, if you want to, you shouldn't use a lot of water, and they put the maximum flow that you can use. And here you can see, for example, for WC, for showers, for wash and basin, they said the maximum that you can use. For also that when you build, you have to take into consideration the waste that you are building and to reuse it. And I said, for example, 70% of the construction and demolition waste have to be used again. You have, when you build, you have to take into consideration the employee, because the materials can emit, and you have to use only materials that have less of emittance from formaldehyde and VOC. And last but not least, you're not allowed to build your building on like a biodiversity of a land has a biodiversity. That means that for these economic activities, you have to substantially contribute and do not significantly harm any of these things mentioned before. And if you do this, then your building is taxonomy conform. Now the second, I have to look to see. Okay, I have to be quick. So the second one is the Sustainable Finance Directive, and it imposes, so to say, disclosure and assessment requirements for labeled product provider and advisor. That means that it sets ESG mandatory disclosure to comply with. Why? Because it help to have it create transparency, yeah, and investment decision. It prevent greenwashing, and it provide clarity and prevent, for example, someone say, okay, my product is sustainable while it's not sustainable. So they have to disclose it. For example, so funds that they shouldn't market their products to be to have let's say let's say they are promoting environmental or social characteristic without fulfilling some criteria, and these criteria are written here. The level 1 is already implemented, and the investor now have to disclose how they manage sustainability risk, for example. The second one still didn't, and the ESA have developed the RTC. I put here the name for later on if you want to read them. So the regulatory technical standard to help and to guide the SFDR, especially on the primary adverse impact, and they put additional product. Two things that are important in the SFDR: sustainability risk and principal adverse impact. What are sustainability risk? As we see here, for example, it is an environmental event. For example, I don't know, like extreme weather, that when it comes, it has a negative impact on the value of the investment. And this is an article. And the second one is in the opposite, that your investment decision is contributing to climate change. For example, you're having real estate with have a loss of a greenhouse gas emission, or they are inefficient. There's some indicators that are applicable to investment in real estate assets. That means you'll be asked to disclose, or if your building is not efficient, you'll have to say, okay, you have to disclose it and say, okay, my building is not efficient. And in the end, there will be a share of it. And then there's additional environmental indicators that you will have also to put them: the greenhouse gas emission, energy consumption, waste. Yeah. So you cannot now run away from these things. The third, last one for the SFDR is that this regulation, or so to say, a fund or product have to be classified either Article 6, 8, or 9. It depends, of course, of the characteristic. Article 6 is without the sustainability scope. 8 and 9, one of them is promoting environmental social characteristic, is called light green, and the Article 9, it is investment that is really sustainable. And here I put some percentage, so to say. You can see even the real estate funds are here. How much of them are Article 8 and Article 9? For example, Article 8 is 373.7 trillion. And 22% of the European fund market. Third one, so if you want to report to the SFDR and everything, you really need you need disclosure from companies. So it is the basic, as you mentioned, I like it here, the starting point for an effective chain of disclosure affecting the whole finance industry rests with companies. So companies have to report their ESG, and so before we were talking about NFDR, and I said it is now amended. So it will the corporate sustainability reporting directive will amend the NFDR, and it will strengthen the collaboration with SFDR and with the taxonomy. And in the end, the European Sustainability Reporting Standard, the EFRAG, will take the initiative, and they are now making some report. But who are the firm, how much firm that are under the CSDR, and what do you have to do? As I mentioned before, in FDR, we had like around 12,000, and now 50,000 of these companies. That means these companies have to disclose all of these things. They have to disclose the ESG, they have to disclose the double materiality concept, and there should be some also connection with the taxonomy. Skip this one, and the EFRAG is the one who will clarify the reporting, so to say. It will match them, and it will in this as we say, it will take account of the SFDR taxonomy, etc. I will show you here. It is you have 13 drafts, and they made you can see them, the cross-cutting standards, social, environment, governance, and they have the appendix if you want to report according to it. And you can see, I love this photo where you can say, for example, this one is related to CSRD, and the other one, okay, 2 minutes, okay, I have to be fast. So as here you can see, same. Maybe now I'll talk a little bit about the EPBD. EPBD is a very important thing. It will affect, first of all, the new building that's construction 2030. All of the building, they have to be zero emission buildings. That means they have a low energy demand, and the extra demand will be covered with renewable energy. You have to calculate again your life cycle assessment, exactly like the taxonomy. As I said, you cannot run from it, and now the legislation is coming. Second, the building who are the worst building, 15% less building, they have to be level F in 2027 and level E by 2030. And that's not a joke. There's many companies that already began, for example, and France and Holland. For example, in Holland, you have to have APCC, or you're not able to use it. And France, for example, your building will have to have a PCF by 2025 and something with 2028. Otherwise, it will not be longer be rent, and you cannot increase. Okay. Maybe I can stop. Yeah, it's better.